Hello, my beautiful buds. Welcome back to my channel, Sprouts with Joy. My name is Joy, and if you'd like to talk about plants, you're in the right place. One of my favorite parts about this houseplant hobby is tracking a plant's progress over time. And I mean, admittedly, sometimes that does mean a lot of growth, but sometimes it also means that a plant declines. You know, we've all been there. Regardless, it's a part that I find really fascinating. We all kind of have our own journeys with our plants, and I love being able to look back on, say, the day that I got a plant and then compare it to present day and see what's happening with it. I was recently looking back at a few of my old videos,
admittedly cringing a little bit.
as I did, but you know, it's fine. All that's just out there on the internet. We've all been somewhere. And I realized that I did a haul, like a pretty substantial haul from Planthaven, Toronto over a year ago. It was back in December of 2022. So a year and 4 months. And I was looking back at all these plants that I bought, and I'm just so perplexed at how different they are now. Admittedly, some of them are kind of the same because they had setbacks, but I figured I would take you along with me today, rewatch that video, and reflect on my journeys with each of those plants and where they're at today. You guys! Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. Look at that leaf. And let me remind you, this plant came free with my order. I'm very happy with that. Look at that, dude. The first plant that I unboxed was a Philodendron Splendid, and this was actually a freebie plant that came with the order, and oh my goodness, I have gotten a lot of mileage out of this plant. Okay, let me show it to you. Would you look at that? Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, it is a little bit tipsy, but that's fine. Let's just take a look at some of these newest leaves right here. Oh my goodness. It's so delicate and beautiful. I love that the new leaves come in this color. Mwah. It's just wonderful. I actually have a couple of plants in here. The second plant is way down here though. This is the newest leaf that it's given me. I'm honestly so impressed with how quickly this plant grows. I mean, you saw, it was like kind of like a scraggly looking cutting. I actually ended up chopping up that plant eventually. Like, it grew quite a bit more very quickly. I chopped the whole thing up, and I think I got 5 or 6 full Philodendron Splendid plants out of that, and the butt cut actually came up with like 2 growth points at the same time. I don't know, it was wild. And then I had several other cuttings that have grown into relatively full plants, and 2 of them are in here. 1 or 2 of them went in plant trades. When I tell you I've gotten a lot of mileage out of this plant,
I've gotten so much mileage out of this plant.
like, this is my personal plant that I've kept. I think that I actually have 1 more. No, I have 2 more like sets of cuttings that are rooting from this plant. But yeah, this is the one that is like my personal plant, and frankly, it is doing incredibly well. It grows, like I said, it grows really, really quickly. It's super easygoing, and I'm really excited to get these leaves to size up. Now, I think that I have 3 poles here stacked up. One thing I would like is to see these leaves size up a little bit quicker, because I feel like the leaf size hasn't changed super dramatically, even though we've already got a pretty long pole here. So that would be one hope of mine, would be to like see it actually get those really, really massive leaves. Maybe it needs more nutrients. Maybe I should water the pole with like nutrient water or like plant food or something like that. I do that occasionally, but not very consistently, but maybe it would really benefit from that. It's actually still in quite a small pot, I feel like, compared to the size of the plant, but I considered repotting it maybe like a month ago, and it's not super root bound, I feel like. So I don't know, maybe that would also help, is eventually increasing the pot size just with producing bigger leaves, but I just haven't gotten there yet. Overall, I would say that this is a huge success. I love the Philodendron Splendid. It's definitely up there in terms of my favorite plants. I'm just excited to like see how it continues to grow, because I think that there is a lot of potential here. Look at this precious little boy. He looks like he might be a little bit thirsty. Oh, that is the philodendron gigas. The next plant that I unboxed was my philodendron gigas. And I guess that we're getting the success stories out of the way because here is that gigas now. Oh my gosh, this plant has grown so dramatically. Looking at how absolutely itty bitty tiny that plant was, and it seemed so fragile. I was honestly really paranoid about it. I remember being pretty convinced that I was going to kill the plant. Like I did not think that it was gonna go well or that it was gonna thrive for me. I don't know why I thought that. I think I just was intimidated by how small it was and the fact that it was a velvet-leaved philodendron. And I think that gigas and the splendid were my two first velvet-leaved philodendron ever in my collection. And I'm just so pleased and so proud of this plant and how far it's come. Like, look at how big these leaves are. It's grown so nicely on the pole. And they are just so dark and gorgeous. I love it. And oh my goodness, I did actually recently take a top cut off this plant because, long story short, I've had it in the greenhouse cabinet most of this time and it's thrived in there. But when I took it out, I feel like there was a bit of a hiccup and it wasn't a huge fan. So the first leaf that it came out with ripped, and I don't know, it had an empty node. I don't know. It was a little bit iffy. So I did decide to take a top cut, but it looks like it's already starting to kind of grow in again. We'll see. I don't really have very high expectations for how the rest of the plant is going to look. We'll have to kind of see what happens. But yeah, it has loved this moss pole. It's rooted very, very nicely into the pole, which it's always really tricky to show you roots because I feel like between the glare and the lighting and the fact that the roots really blend in with the moss, it's a little bit hard to show you. But trust me, it is rooted very nicely into this moss pole and it is growing beautifully, remarkably well. I also have never had any sort of pest on this plant. I mean, knock on wood, I'm not asking for a pest, so please don't give me a pest. I'm just pleasantly surprised with how relatively easy it has been to grow. It's definitely very vocal when it needs to be watered. The leaves curl in slightly. I can always feel pretty comfortable and confident as to when to water it. As far as propagation goes and that sort of thing, my only experience with it so far has been this top cut that I only took maybe 2 weeks ago, but both cuts are actually already starting to root, which is a super pleasant surprise. You never know if it's gonna take a long time or if plants are gonna root, period. Sometimes some plants are just finicky, so you never really know. But overall, I'm just so proud of how far this plant has come. It's unbelievable. Oh my gosh, it's even prettier than I thought it would be. Do you see that venation? And a little guy. It does kind of go downhill from here, but it's okay. Alright, this is the Hoya elliptica, which is fine. Actually, I feel like this one's a very neutral plant of the bunch. It's given me some new leaves, and it looks pretty. It's a little bit bigger, but it's also nothing crazy or notable, like the other two plants I just showed you. It's just very okay. And I feel like I actually prefer the way that it looks on camera to in person because the venation looks even more pronounced on camera. But when I look at it in person, it seems a little bit less striking for some reason. This pet's also kind of on my bad side just a little bit because it very recently gave me a very full peduncle and it was on the cusp of flowering. Then it just went and
blasted its bloom
for no discernible reason. I have been told that sometimes Hoyas will blast their blooms because you look at it the wrong way, or you move it to water it, of course, but doesn't matter. Or if you don't water enough. But of course, if you move it to water it, Bye. So now I know better. I'm not gonna breathe on this thing the next time it has a peduncle. I don't care if it needs to be watered because that's what happened, I think. The only thing I can think of is I did water it while the peduncle was maturing. So yeah, this guy's on my bad side. Not terribly, but I'm a little bit just like, really? You were that vindictive? Obviously, I'm personifying the plant. Sometimes plants are a mystery. I'm being a little bit facetious. But overall, like, I do like this plant a lot. I think that this was actually kind of the beginning of my Hoya obsession. I feel like I'm not quite as Hoya obsessed as, like, compared to other people, but I am very on board with Hoya, and this haul was sort of, it wasn't exactly the beginning, but it was like the next step into Hoya ownership, I guess, into like getting a little bit more uncommon Hoya, that sort of thing. Because I think as far as my Hoya journey goes, I started off with like a bunch of the more common ones, like Carnosa varieties and the Obovata. I did get my hands on a Linearis fairly early on, and like a Pupacalyx and stuff like that. And then I got a Mathilde, and then I had kind of a long wait until eventually I got like a Hoya Polynera and a Hoya Velosa. So I'd say like the Polynera and the Velosa were like the first Hoyas that that was like the first step. And then it was just forward momentum from there. And like the next Hoyas after the Velosa were this Hoya elliptica and then the next Hoya I'm about to show you in this video. Now I have like, I actually just did a count because I'm planning to do a Hoya collection video soon. I have 25 Hoya. I don't know when that happened. I think I just blinked and it happened. So not all of them are doing super fantastically well. I'd say this one's very like middle of the road. You know, it gives me the occasional leaf, but like not that often. So it has been a very slow grower for me. I hope that it speeds up a little bit soon. Sometimes I've noticed like Hoyas will be really slow growers and then all of a sudden they take off. So I am hoping and praying for the day that this takes off because I really do like it. I just think that it would be like a little bit more impressive if it were like bigger. I probably will have it trail if it is okay with that. The only Hoya that I've owned that like did not seem to be okay with trailing is my Hoya Pupacalyx. Like that one only puts off leaves. Like it's constantly trying to climb, and it only really puts off leaves if it's like trellised or like attached to something. All of my other Hoyas have done relatively well while they're trailing, and I think I generally prefer the look of a Hoya when they're trailing, but I don't know. I haven't fully decided yet, but I don't feel like I have to decide yet because it's still so early on. It looks like its growth pattern lends itself towards being like more bushy. So I don't know. We'll see. Oh my goodness. Ready? Look at this. It certainly meets those expectations. Whoa. You guys, it's even better than, oh my gosh, it's even better than I imagined. It's so much better in person. I figured that they would be big, but I didn't think they would be this big. My Hoya Marillii. So we've kind of gone backwards with this plant. It's so laughable compared to what it looked like when I got it. I mean, it's still alive. I'm grateful for that, but it's got a good, you know, 3 leaves right now. There's a story to this. There's a background. And as you see, I actually very recently repotted it. I went ahead and added a trellis because I feel like a trellis would suit this plant better than trailing. Looking back on this video, I was so obsessed with this plant and so excited for it. Don't get me wrong, I still am a sucker for these leaves. Like, they are big. They are veiny, so beautiful, but oh my word, this plant is not very communicative. It's challenging to know when this plant needs to be watered or whether or not this plant is doing well, because it will be like completely dead or like close to dead and the leaf still looks fine. Like, it's very deceptive. I feel like this is the zombie plant, or like maybe vampire plant would be a better term. Yeah, this is like a vampire plant. Like, it will die and you won't notice. It'll just be like a slightly paler shade of green that could also easily be attributed to getting too much sun and like having chlorosis and being bleached out and stuff. So this plant has gotten dry rot not once, but at least twice. So I've had to reroot this plant completely from scratch twice. In the midst of like taking all the cuttings and rerooting them, only 2 cuttings really survived that experience, and these are both in here, hence the 2 leaves, and then there's 1 more leaf that's kind of grown from the plant. But yeah, it's been almost 1.5 years, and this is what I have to show for it. I keep on telling myself, like, at least it's still alive, but this one has been really tricky for some reason. I don't understand. I don't know, make me feel better. Let me know if any of you guys have had journeys like this with plants that have just been completely backwards. And like, at least they're still alive, but like they are not anywhere close to what they even were when you got them. I'm still hoping that it will turn around for me, but if I'm being honest, like this plant has been a really slow grower as well. It's given me a couple of new leaves, but nothing really substantial at all. So I don't know, we'll have to see. Oh my gosh, this variegation kind of low-key reminds me of the Thai constellation. Obviously the Thai constellation is creamier, but like the speckling on it, and it has some of those pink margins like on the petiole. Oh my gosh. I have chills right now. Wow. Tell me, do you see that pinkishness, right? And I know that they can like get even more pink sometimes, like in different spots. Next is another philodendron. It's my philodendron white princess. And before you gasp and are like,
Oh my goodness, like that's so sad. Like it didn't survive.
okay, no, it did. Literally, I think the video before this one, I chopped my entire white princess up completely. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think that, I mean, as you can see in the footage, I mean, I didn't give it a moss pull and it never really grew super impressive. It wasn't super stable or anything like that. The leaves didn't size up substantially. And I also didn't feel like the variegation was that nice in the long run. And it always grew like fairly well for me, but like nothing crazy. This is actually the top cut plus like maybe one other cutting, and it had like a new leaf coming in. Like this leaf right here actually looked quite nice. See, like it's like decent, but for some background, I actually ended up getting my hands on a completely different white princess. It actually had some pink variegation in it. So like the variegation was a completely another level. The leaf size is far superior, and I'm just not interested in having two white princesses in my collection. So it took me a long time to get around to it, but this first white princess that I got, I decided to chop up, and I'm gonna give a lot of it away to my friends, maybe sell some of it. I might keep like this top cut and pot it up with my other white princess that I now have as like a memento to my original white princess. Because like it is special to me, it holds a special place in my heart. But again, like I just don't have the capacity to be taking care of like a bunch of duplicate plants in my collection and maintaining them. I just don't. So yeah, like I love it, but yeah, I had to kind of just make that hard decision. I am very happy with the other white princess that I have right now. And yeah, it's like it's a little bit bittersweet because I love having like a really nice, beautiful, big white princess that this one like never quite got to the level of. But I also still enjoyed my season with this plant, and we'll have to see how these cuttings take and what happens. I don't know, like it's literally been like 2 days since I chopped up this whole plant, so it's not anywhere near rooted or anything. So of course, like I'll have to kind of stand by and see how they do before I make any final decisions. But yeah, that's kind of what happened to this plant. You have no idea how many times I've almost bought this plant, like just perusing online. I'm a little bit nervous on caring for him, but I have been successful with my black velvet so far. What? Do you see this? Do you see this right now? Okay, hello? Okay, the texture of these leaves. Okay, I didn't fully know what to expect, but like this newest leaf, the texture is almost like rubbery. Okay, this last one is probably the saddest of them all in my opinion, and that's my Alocasia cuprea. As you can see, this is a one leaf wonder right now. And yeah, I mean, the one leaf looks pretty okay. It's small, but like, it's nice. I still love this plant objectively, but my subjective experience has been
Kind of exhausting.
my experience with this plant has very much been like that of an unstable relationship. I remember being so so like giddy with excitement when I opened this plant. I mean, you saw in my unboxing, I was just completely starstruck, astounded by this plant. It's so unique, so cool looking, so dark. Mwah, love it. And that was also kind of the beginning of my alocasia era, which I'm still somewhat in. It very quickly declined. I think, like, I'm trying to remember the specifics, but I feel like very shortly after I received it, it declined. And part of that is that I'm pretty sure it just didn't like being shipped. Like, the stress of shipping is a pretty common thing that happens to plants, where they'll decline and then kind of bounce back. And I don't know, I wasn't like super surprised, like maybe a little bit discouraged, but yeah, I think that it lost several leaves. It was a little bit shocked, and so I did put it in my prop box and I rehabbed it. It seemed to be doing better, so I put it in my greenhouse cabinet, and it was like stable for a little while, but not really thriving or growing very much. It might give me a new leaf every once in a blue moon, but like, I feel like I've maybe had like 3 or 4 new leaves total over the course of the entire year, but like it lost a lot more than that, clearly. Like, it was going strong for a while, but I can't remember if I like underwatered it or overwatered it. Something was wrong on my end. Oh, I do remember another point. Like, I repotted this plant, but I should have probably put it directly into sphagnum moss. The root system did not look good when I repotted it. Yeah, that was another big big mess that I did last year. It was like a whole year ago. In the spring, I was repotting a bunch of plants and I saw the root system on this guy and I was like, because I was trying to get it into new soil, like fresh soil, and it was not looking great. So I think it rotted then too. And then I had to rehab it again. I don't know. There's like a whole mess of, it was like in the prop box, out of the prop box, in the greenhouse cabinet, prop box, like back and forth. Basically, suffice it to say, this entire year has been nothing but like struggling with this plant. And so now it's actually in sphagnum moss because I think it was either dry rot or root rot. I can't really remember which one, but I've been having to reroot it in sphagnum moss. Now I'm pretty sure it's ready to be potted up, but I'm honestly like really nervous to do that. Everything that I do with this plant, I feel like I do something wrong and it just gets mad at me and declines. I don't want that anymore. I want this plant to thrive in my care, but it just has not. It's like one of the plants in my collection that has struggled so much. And to make matters even worse, about maybe 3 or 4 months after I got this plant, one of my local plant stores, Pandy's, that I go to pretty frequently, they came out with Alocasia cupreas for like $10, $15. They had plants that were like much more substantial than this, maybe like 5-inch pots that were really full and lush. They also had like 10-inch pots for like $30 of just, I don't know, 20 leaves in there. Like, oh my gosh. So I don't know. That also just goes to show how stubborn I am, because at any point I could have just caved and gotten one of those really nice, inexpensive Alocasia cupreas from my local garden center and probably had like a super thriving, nice one in my collection.
But no.
I'm really stubborn, and because I have one of these already, I'm just like, you need to live and get your act together in my care. I'm not getting rid of you because I'm really stubborn. Even though it'd probably be smarter, like if I really wanted like a thriving Alocasia cuprea in my collection, which I do, it would be way easier to just give up on this one and go get one from my local garden center or combine the 2 of them. But no, I haven't done that because I'm stubborn. My hope is that this plant turns around and thrives for me someday, but my expectations are like a little bit on the floor. Well, that's gonna be it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. All those things are super helpful for my channel, and I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye-bye!